Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening. Welcome to this podcast. This is season 7 of RHWB. So, I'm sure we have the largest team in this season than what we have ever done. And this is a series that we do in terms of bringing together runners from last season or previous seasons and share their experiences and learn from that and have some fun along the way, right? So in this particular podcast, I'm standing in for Bala, Coach Bala. I'm just for those who don't know me, I'm GV Ganesh. I'm based in Dallas and I'm a part of RSWB. This is my fourth season and I'm doing a half marathon. I've done three half marathons before that. I've had a lot of fun doing it with wonderful runners and learned a lot from them. So I just have this opportunity to host this podcast, or this particular one in the season, and I have a wonderful set of runners with me, and they've had some great experiences to share with all of us, and I'm sure each one of you can learn from them. So usually we bring together people with some commonality, and we try to kind of articulate that up front, but it's going to be a fun conversation with this group, and maybe we'll talk about it towards the end of it because I think they have a lot of things in common that they can share, and we'll get to that. Okay. With that background, let me request the first speaker to share her background.
Hi everyone. Hi GB. Thank you for having me on this podcast. It's an honor. My name is Sonali Oltikar. I live in Texas, in a Houston suburb called Sugarland. This is my second season with RHWB. Last season, me and my husband Nitin, we did our first half marathon. And for this season as well, I have signed up for another half marathon. Originally from Mumbai, born and raised, I completed my education there. I worked there for about 3 years or so, after which I came to the US. I worked in Columbus for a few months, and then I moved to Houston, where I met my future husband and made some, wonderful friends who are now family. I have two boys, ages 4 and 6. In fact, my 6-year-old Ansh is a 5K runner for this season. So it's kind of becoming a family affair this time. On the professional front, I've been in IT for all of my career. I currently work for JP Morgan Chase. On the fitness front, I've never been an athlete per se. I would take part in, some track and field events, team sports in school and college, but it would mostly be, for the fun part of it and, the team spirit and, sheer adrenaline, but not from a fitness perspective. So never really took intense liking to any particular activity, much less running. So yeah, that's my background.
No, very nice, Sonali. Thanks for sharing that. Great. And you do have your family in the running program as well, right?
Yes, my husband and is also a half marathon this time, and my son has signed up for 5K.
Wow. And how old is your son?
6 years.
Wow. All of 6 years old. And your husband is?
Nitin.
Nathan. Great. Already, I think a family is getting into it. And you said you have a 4-year-old who's probably going to follow suit soon, right? Very nice to have you here, Sonali. And let's go on to the next speaker.
Yeah, hi Bala. Hi everyone. Sorry, hi GV.
I know
I'm
there's a label of
yeah,
Bala
exactly.
there. It's his
Let's
login, but absolutely. Let's go ahead.
correct. Hey GV. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me on this podcast. So this is Vineet Chhapekar. I've been living in Houston, Texas for around now probably 15 years now. I've been part of this community. I've moved from Pune over here.
Great.
I'm running in this season 6. Actually, I ran in season 6 last year. This is my second season with RHWB. And it's a fun part, definitely running. I have my son who is also part of this group for season 6 and season 7. And my wife also runs as part of this group as season 6 and season 7. And then, yeah, from professional perspective, I actually work for JP Morgan Chase. I am over there. And from this, I was never been part of any running. So basically, from fitness perspective, actually, I used to play badminton a little bit. I used to walk around, but never ran before this. So that's pretty much it from my side.
Great. And what do you do for JP Morgan, Vinny?
I am into big data space over there at JP Morgan Chase. I manage one of the projects and one of the executions for JP Morgan Chase. That's
Wonderful.
what I do.
Great. Very nice, Vineet. Thanks. Nice to have you here. And again, we can see another family almost there. I think you said your wife and your sons run as well. That's fascinating. Great. Let's go ahead to the next speaker, please.
Hey, hi, Chivi. This is Neha. Thank you for having me here. So I came from a small town. After 10th grade, actually, I was all the time in hostel. After marriage, immediately I came to US. I am also from Houston, also in Sugarland.
Oh,
So I came behind my husband over here. Um, so I work in different companies in last 15 years. So I was with IBM for 6 years. I was working from home that time, and last after that I joined JP Morgan again. So I'm in project execution. Since last 3 years, I'm working for JP Morgan. Uh, so my husband is also here in the program. We completed our half marathon last season, and my son is 12-year old. He was part of this program. He completed his 10K. So my son and myself were our coach was Shivatsan, and this season also he's like amazing coach. So he was we and my daughter is 5 years old, so she is not part of this program, but from in her mind she's already running. So whenever we discuss something about run, she says like, oh, I have to run also. So that's how entire thing is integrated in my family right now.
beautiful. Great. So, welcome, Sonali, welcome, Vineet, and welcome, Neha, right? So, folks, I said there are a lot of things in common, right, between them. Just in the introduction, right, I think at least I can just pick a few, right? So, one, all of them are from Houston. All of them work for JP Morgan. All of them, I mean, they have two kids each, right? And their older kid has got into the program, and the younger kid is almost there. They're all are going to become a running family as well, and maybe a few more I might have missed. So by the time it's done, I think we'll find a few more things. But nevertheless, great. But one thing it just struck me, right? Just curious. I'm sure you guys know each other, right? You being in Houston and Sugarland. So Vineet, you said you have a 12-year-old who has run a 10K last season. And Neha, you said you also had a 12-year-old who had done a 10K last season, right? So do they run together? Do they know each other very well, or how does it work?
Because that's only one person.
so,
Basically,
so,
this
so
is my husband. So
Wonderful. Okay, so Grace, this is probably the first time we are doing a couple together in the same podcast, right? So very
Exactly.
nice to have you together, Vineet
Thank
and Neha. And again, really looking forward to this conversation because we do have a lot of couples in this program. Like again, Sonali Minethan is here, and many of us. And again, just it works much better when the entire family is invested into the program in terms of your scheduling and challenges and whatever you deal with. But
yeah.
I think it's great to have you guys here, and it's the second season or the last season was the first season for all of them, and I'm glad that they all have come back. Right, that's one more common thing between all of them. Right, so great. With that, get very nice to get to know you, all of you. Right, and so folks, if you are from Pune, Mumbai, the schools they went to, or JP Morgan, in your history or paths, you know who to connect with and build a network. Right, that's one of the goals that we all have. So with that said, great. So generally, what I heard is not a whole lot of sporting background in all of you, right? So then, how did you get into running? So this time, let's start with Vineet.
Yeah, getting into running, I never actually honestly thought that I would get into running, as I said initially. So I used to only play badminton a little bit. That too, I used to walk a lot. At least a lot is like 2 miles, 3 miles. But never ever thought of running. So we all, like as I said, right, we are all close family, and then we have our friend Saurabh Aparna. So they got into running in season 4 as such. So then they used to tell stories about this RHWB season, actually season 5. So they got into running for season 5. They used to tell stories about the season 5, how it is, and then how they run and so on. So that definitely started a little bit motivating us as to, okay, probably there's something that we can try. And that's honestly how then my wife Neha, she also got motivated into it, and then she started telling me that, okay, probably it's running will be a good exercise. And then in pandemic, I started putting on a lot of weight, eating a lot, and so on. So wanted to definitely have some stress buster to reduce my weight. And then that's when I thought, okay, let me see whether running could be my cup of tea. And that's how I started enrolling myself into it. But honestly, in my mind, I always thought, okay, probably I will never be able to complete it. Then I thought, okay, whether to go for 10K or a half marathon. Finally, I said, okay, let us take it as a challenge. Let us go over it and let us enroll ourselves for half marathon. And that's how I got into running to begin with.
Great. So played some badminton. Never thought you'll be able to run.
Never ever.
Thanks to pandemic and all the
Yeah,
food, you chose to jump into it and see how it goes. Right? Great. Great
exactly.
story. Yeah. Let's go ahead, Neha. How about you?
Um, so actually, before COVID, joined Orange Theory Fitness because I wanted to. And first thing, like I was always running, not running as such, like on the road, but behind the kids, behind the family, behind the work. So running was always part of my life, but I was not running for myself.
And behind the husband as well. Yeah,
That,
Absolutely.
that goes without saying, I think, Vineet. She was trying to be
exactly.
nice.
So running was always there for me, but I was not running for myself. So definitely COVID hit and we were like stuck in home. So I wanted to definitely do something for myself. And when we heard everything from entire program, how it works and how fascinating it is, I really wanted to get onboarded on that. So that's how we came to know, means from Saurabh and Aparna, we got to know about the program. And that was the motivating factor for me. Like, I can do something for myself and I can have my me time basically. So that's how I got onboarded
Very good.
on this.
Very good. I think um, let's just listen to Sonali's story as well, and I'm sure there'll be some common themes coming out of that, and we'll talk about that. Go ahead, Sonali. Yeah.
Yeah, so Jimmy, like I said, right, I never really took any, firm or passionate liking to any fitness activity per se. I dabbled in pretty much everything: elliptical, gym, weights, Orange Theory fitness, and swimming, etc. But never really stuck to anything, and much less running. But I started, being in IT for, pretty much all of my career. I knew that, I had to do something. So, anyways, right, like fast forward to 2020, once kind of got used to the pandemic lifestyle, I took some time to do some self reflection, some introspection to evaluate, right? Like where I wanted to be, where I am actually. And then I decided to prioritize something which I had always put off for a long time, which is, making fitness as part of a non negotiable part of my routine and not optional. It can't be the last thing on my mind, right? So, so I spoke to one of my cousin brothers who's incidentally from Dallas as well, and who is in technology by profession, but amongst other things, he's a fitness and nutrition expert by passion. So, I was very honest about my shortcomings, like how I was not able to stick to particular thing. And he said, look, I'll guide you, I'll hold you accountable. And then he suggested different things. And he said, you want to, say lose weight or, build your stamina. I think you should take up running. And I was like, please, can you please suggest something else? Because I was never really comfortable with running. I think I was simply not comfortable with my center of gravity or whatever, right? So, long story short, I, started off the first week I went running. I was pretty embarrassed with myself because I was like, if there's someone behind me with a knife, I don't think I'll be able to save myself. I was pretty bad. I couldn't keep up. But I slowly built on it. I said, okay, I have to do it. I have to do it. And it kept encouraging me because I was improving. And then after a couple of months, when we do our routine physical checkup, I saw that even in my blood work, my numbers had improved very well. So coincidentally, around that time in December 2020, like the six of us, like Saurabh, Appanna, Vineet, Neha, my husband and I, we're all close friends. We're like family. So we are hanging out on a Friday night after dinner when Saurabh and Appanna mentioned that they were joining this running group. They give a background about Coach Bala, the program, the group, etc. And we all were very impressed. We were like, yes, we definitely want to sign up for the next opportunity. So, we had decided that time. So even though technically we weren't part of season five, we have watched their journey in season five very closely, and we were so proud of them. They really, adhered to the entire routine so well, be it allergy season, be it winter storm. And now I know one of the major factors was being part of this kind of group, right, where like-minded people who want to help each other out and all. So that's how I kind of got into running, and I kind of started liking it.
Great, fascinating story, right? So I think one thing that emerging very obviously between all of this is the number of times you guys have mentioned Saurabh and Aparna, right? So I think again, personally, for those of you who don't know them, Saurabh is an assistant coach this season. He lives in Saurabh and Aparna. They live in Houston, and they are a great role model of leadership and kind of creating a community around them, right? Because they did the season 5, I think, and then there's a huge group of about 15 to 20 of their friends who are into it in season 6, and that is expanding, right? So in short, they did a great sales job with all you guys to get you guys into the program, it seems, right? So, but jokes apart, I think the 2 or 3 things that's very critical is it's very common that when you sign up, it's just influenced by somebody who has experienced it and they're sharing that. And I think, Neha, like you said, all of you have young families and professional careers that you are pursuing. So it's very difficult to find that me time, right? And there are 100 reasons as to why we cannot. But I'm so glad that you made that a priority and chose to do this as an activity to kind of realize that, right? But so most people who have signed up, so I think that the point is, yes, it's important to make that choice. And once you have made that choice, here's an example of people who have seen it through a season and then they are still able to pursue it and come back. So it's about making some adjustments to your lifestyle and figuring it out. That's let's right jump into that, right? So I know you've seen Aparna and Saurabh run. It's always good to see when somebody else goes through a particular experience. We all get to see the best part of it and get wowed by it and say, "Oh, how come we are not getting it and we want it?" Right? So great. That was the background as to how you got in. But now that you got in, we all know that it's a relentless 14-week program or 14 to 16-week program that you had to go through. So how was that experience coming in with a certain expectation and then going through that journey? Just let's talk about that. This time, let's start with Neha.
So as we already knew like how the program will be, but hearing something about the program but having a part of that is completely different. So when we started the program, all these things are like alien language, like basically CP, heart rate, final surge. So first 1 week or so was like understanding all these different terms. Definitely our coach and entire journey was like they were helping us definitely to understand the concept and what the expectations they have from us in order to complete the entire journey. So um, so that we started this mesocycle and got our gears and all the things set up from our side and started this journey slowly. It's not like we started running as we enroll for half marathon. It will be like running completely 13 miles to get at first. So we started this journey slowly and it was like an amazing experience to have um, during the entire different mesocycles basically.
Got it. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Great. So I mean, I think it's one thing to hear about it, and another thing to experience it, right?
Yes.
So did you face some challenges along the way, Neha? Anything that you problem solved?
Definitely. Actually, end of second mesocycle, I started having the shin pain,
Mm-hmm.
and that was very hard for me to stop myself from running because my coach, yeah, I'm talking about my coach a lot because he's awesome coach, Srivatsan. So he told me to stop everything, don't run at all, and completely take rest because you have to see the bigger picture and target for the race, the day. And running, seeing everyone running and stopping myself from running was very hard for me. But that was the best advice given by coach and all my friends, like take time, take rest, and prepare yourself for the long day from for the day. And that really helped me to And basically all this program is core exercises and strength exercises, how those are important. I understood that point actually, and I started taking them seriously.
Right. Right. No, very nice. Great to hear that you dealt with an injury, but you are able to deal with it and with a big picture in mind and still come back and finish the season strong. That's a great
Yeah.
story, Neha. Thank you for that. Yes, Sonali, what was your experience going to the training program?
Um, well, we as as per all the suggestions, we purchased all the gears and kept everything ready. The whole setup with final surge. We had a wonderful season kickoff party hosted by Saurabh and Aparna. So we started the season off on a very energetic note. Um, and then we're eager to look at the training schedule and all. And soon I realized, I realized that the whole schedule is so well structured in a way that it is very predictable, yet there is so much of variety. So it really helped, like remembering things when planning the next few weeks, between work and everything. So everything has a set every activity had the set number of days, but things would be spiced up and all that. So I really liked the overall structure. Back then, both me and Nitin were half marathon runners, so we had the same schedule. But now, with our son being a 5K runner, we can do things together. So if it's a run for everyone. So it was a very helpful. It's a very good structure that way that I realized. um, and then my success criteria for this season, being the first half marathon, was pretty straightforward. I was like, as much as possible I want to finish the season without any major injuries. And on the race day I want to be able to enjoy the end of that run. I want to be in a position to celebrate. So I said, that is probably what I should aim for, being the first this thing. So that is how I went with, tried to adhere to the training, each training day activities and all. I did have some, knee pains and things like that. I did some knee strengthening and all of that, did rise. I used to use the compression thing during some of the runs. But overall, I think I really enjoyed that whole training schedule. Being, season 6 started right in the middle of summer, right? And GB, you can attest to that the Texas heat was
Absolutely.
pretty brutal, right? So we had like only two slots, like morning and evening, where me and my husband could schedule our runs. So that
Yeah, and
was a
you
little.
also had a younger one who was not running to take care of us.
Yeah.
So you had
So
to kind of
we couldn't
adjust.
go at the same time. So
Yeah,
but then what, but what, we had to deal with it, right? So what, right? So then we would plan over the weekend, hey, for this week, who's going to go in the mornings, who's going to go in the evenings. So that kind of helped with some of that planning and management, right? But then come, that was okay until say August and all. But then when we started approaching the peak meso cycle, even the Saturday long runs were getting difficult, right? Because
right.
we would take more time, but then we cannot just go in the night, right? Because for long distances we prefer to run on the mud trail, and we
Right.
can't be there at night. So before we could even talk about this problem, Saurabh and Aparna, said that, hey, you guys are coming to our place for sleepovers on Fridays. So his Saurabh's parents were there. So he said all the kids can sleep in and we can go all together for the Saturday long runs.
Very nice.
So, I mean, I think it would have been very difficult for us to manage the Saturday long runs, or that peak meso cycle without that support. So very lucky in that respect that we found good help from families. My coach was Coach Mo. I respect him so much. He was so helpful with all the minor things as well. So I, first of all, I definitely want to thank him for for his all his support throughout the season. Um, and then we did a lot of fun things, right? Like I said, we had a good kickoff party. We did some destination runs. We all went to Colorado in the summer and we did some
Wow.
destination runs there.
Beautiful.
And I think, GB, we did a run in Dallas as well,
Yes,
right? Where
we did.
we met you and some of the other Dallas folks. So, we had really some fun times, very memorable, very good memories that I would definitely cherish for a long time.
No,
So,
that's great. Great that you had a better experience than what you expected coming into the training program. That doesn't happen too often, right? But I'm just glad that you had that. What about you, Vineet?
Yeah, so for me, but yeah, as we all said, right, purchasing gears and everything was very exciting. New shoes, everything, new and so on. So started with Mesocycle One. It was like a very nice thing, Mesocycle One, because you just run 3.5 miles, 4 miles maximum. I never thought that I could run. And every time when you start stepping a little more, if you ran 1.5 mile one day and then 2 miles next day, you have that feeling of, oh wow, I'm able to do it and I'm able to run. So motorcycle one was awesome. Running with kid, with Neha, with family. It was definitely a different experience altogether.
Mhm.
Motorcycle two, that's when yeah, that's when you start. That's when probably the difficulty level goes a little more higher when you have strides and everything. And over there also it was all okay. Motorcycle two, motorcycle three was something which was definitely stressful, to be honest. And yes, it and with Texas state heat in cycle three running in August, it was definitely a problem. And then I started facing some knee injuries over
Oh,
there.
okay.
That's when I thought, okay, I started losing little confidence in myself, whether I'll be able to complete it, not complete it, and so on, with a knee injury. But again, we used to get a constant feedback from Saurabh Aparna for sure. And then we used to talk to our coach Ani as well. He helped us a lot. He sent some few exercises that I could have done and I can do and so on. So I realized that, did that, and then we were able to complete this Mesocycle 3. Thank you so much. Definitely thank you so much, Coach Ani, for giving those tips, and Saurabh, of course, for helping us in completing this Mesocycle 3. It was a
Yeah,
definitely very
wonderful.
good experience.
Very, very nice stories and experience. As I said, you guys had a unique advantage of having seen your friends closely go through it. But
Exactly.
when you
Yeah.
had your own experience, which was very, very different, right? And
Correct.
if I can kind of relate your experiences back to the three pillars, which kind of Bala talks about again for the new runners this season, of about commitment, resilience, and having fun, right? So if you think about it, you all had a very difficult schedule juggling, and like I'm sure you dealt with Vineet and Neha with younger one not running to manage your timing, but you just found a way to do it. That is it. Right? You're committed to do it. Not doing it was not a choice, right? That's awesome. Then resilience. Each one of you had some kind of an injury or a setback in some form or shape. But again, that's a great help. I think wonderful assistant coaches. Thanks for naming them. Again, Srivatsan, Mo, and Ani, great coaches, and they individually they're amazing runners too. But they have just chosen to invest the time to make it available for you all or the team, and then make sure that you all can be successful. Hats off to them for the amount of time and effort they commit into this, right? And then finally, having fun. I think, like what Sonali said, I think while you all have a close knit group, which is fairly unique in terms of, I know there's a huge group like that in Boston and New Jersey. And I'm sure this will trigger more of that happening in other cities as well. But probably you guys got closer and were able to find additional support. But again, destination runs and going to trips like Colorado and together, you found a way to have fun as well, right? I think it's just beautiful to hear your stories and relate it back to what we try to stand for within RSWB. And you are very much a part of that, embodying it, if you may, and spreading your messages to everybody else, right? That's very nice, right? So you figured out a way to make the training program successful. And we always say that the journey is the destination, right? Yes, there is a race day, which is very important, which is a target against which we all train for. But the fact that you trained without missing your programs, and that's the training days and the strength training, that's great. And the lesson on strength training is important, and that's not an optional thing. I know, Neha, you learned it a bit hard way, but still that got ingrained, I think, right? So that's beautiful message coming out of what your experience was there as well. But still, there is a race day, and there is an expectation we all have of ourselves. And I know it was a bit virtual in your scenario, given it's still we are in the pandemic. But tell me a bit about your race day experience. This time, let's start with Sonali.
Sure, GV. Oh, well, the race day in itself was very amazing, right? But, even the days leading up to the race day were very interesting. We were like about 15, 20 of us from Sugarland itself, and, including 4 or 5 kids. So we discussed quite a bit on where we would run, when to start, and all of that. I tried to follow all the suggestions in that last week about tapered runs, carbo loading, and most importantly, nothing new, right? So uh, try to kind of follow all of that. We packed our bags the previous night, and then we ready to head off to the Pradhan's residence, right, for the sleepover, so that we could all just head out in the morning. So I first thought I'll be a little anxious and nervous about, being such a long run. We've practiced only till 10 miles, but we just decided that we'll just treat it like a Saturday long run because that is what we used to enjoy a lot. In fact, Neha and I, we started our run together. It was a very nice, cool, crisp morning. And, our paces were kind of similar, and so was our strategy. So we ran, I think, almost 9 or 10 miles together. We had, fun chit chats along the way, not to the point where we would get exhausted, but, we just we ran together. Didn't realize how the time flew by. After that, we kind of went our way depending on our energy level and all of that, right? I was a little curious or nervous about how the last 3 miles would go because I had run, continuously up until now in my whole life, only up until 10 miles, right? So I was like, what's going to happen in the last 3 miles? But then, you look at your watch, it's ticking, you're getting closer to 11 miles, 12 miles. A lot of our friends came to cheer us who weren't running, but they came to cheer us at the trail. They were taking pictures. Kids had those pom poms waving at us as we were
Wow.
passing by and all. So it all added to the energy and excitement. Even I think Aparna ran with me in the last mile or so. So overall, it was so much fun. After the run, actually, we all went back to Saurabh and Aparna's for a celebration, right? I think they had done a whole finish line setup where we took more pictures and videos, and then had amazing hot food and tea, coffee. So, all in all, like right from the pre-season kickoff to the race day, end of the race day, it was so magical. It was really good.
Great. Awesome. Very nice to hear that it was a breeze for you thanks to amazing support and setup, but also thanks to your training, right? You didn't have much of a hiccup on that day at all, right? I think that's kind of what it stands for. And I think
Yeah,
that's
towards I think maybe the last couple of miles, I was starting to feel exhausted, but then, Aparna started running with me, so I forgot all about that. So I think that helped a lot. Physically, nothing changed, but just the mental support from everyone it was very, very critical that time.
okay. Wonderful. Great to hear that story, Sonali. What about you, Vineet?
Yeah, for me, the race day was really awesome. In the sense, we were all anticipating how the race day would be. We're all actually, I was a little nervous on the race day, honestly, to begin with, because of the injury that I had during my last mesocycle. So I was not sure how I would be able to cope up after 10 miles. So, but first few miles were really awesome. The weather was good. We were all running together, and then the support that we had was really awesome. After 10th mile or 11th mile is when I actually started facing a little bit of a pain in my knee during that run. And around 11 and a half or 12th mile, I was like, okay, whether I would be able to continue or whether I should stop at this point and then. But giving up at that late stage was definitely not an option for me. I thought, okay, definitely I'll be able to complete it. And all the motivation from the team members and from the people on the ground definitely added up. So they're like, okay, you have to complete this 1.5 miles for sure. And sort of was there, and then he was actually massaging me when I was running as well. In the sense, we just used to sit for like hardly 30 seconds. He used to massage my knee, and then I was running. But that definitely helped me a lot. So it happened like one or two times for sure. And then I was able to complete it finally 13.2 miles. It was definitely a very good satisfaction. You never thought at the beginning of the season that you'd be able to run even 2 miles, and completing 13.2 at the very end day was definitely an awesome thing to celebrate. And then we had this definitely a celebration event, and then went to like it was a nice lunch and dinner, or sorry, lunch and a breakfast type of a thing, which was hosted. It was a nice day.
Great. So I think one thing I want to point out, which came out in Vineet's thing, right? I think great that you had a group of people who are supporting all of that, right? And again, clearly you hear Saurabh and Aparna how much they have helped each one of you. We'll talk about that a bit later. But specifically, Vineet, I want to bring this up to the benefit of the audience, right? So in spite of all your training, doing it perfectly, you will, or very likely, will have a race day hiccup, right? It
Exactly.
can happen. All of us experience it in some form or shape. Now it's a question of how you manage that, right? It's not going to be a perfect thing. And then we talked about the cardiovascular, the musculoskeletal. You have done all the hard work to build that. But the last aspect of the mental strength training that we have done during the course of the season, that brings out the best in you. Can you just articulate a bit about what was the mental process that you're going through and how you kind of convince yourself to keep pushing yourself?
Yeah, it is about this 11 and a half miles, right? That is when I started hitting this issue of my knee pain. But you are always okay. It's only 2 miles or more. You have all the support from all the team members, and then yeah, you know that just running 2 miles, okay, you'll be able to make it. And just thinking positively that okay, I'll be able to see the finish line. I'll be able to complete it, and I think that kept me moving on. And the cheer that you get, you see everybody else has completed, so it's a nice thing. If everybody else can do it, why can't you do it? That's definitely a thing that in your mind. So it definitely helped me for sure.
Right. And of course, you had family running with you or around you. So
Exactly.
you had no
Yeah.
choice, but you had no choice to give up at all, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But
True.
jokes apart, Vineet, I think I really would like to commend that aspect of it, right? Because when you're exhausted, you're tired, you've never done this, garnering that mental strength is always not that easy. I'm so glad that you are able to do that and still complete the race, and that's a great feeling. Thank you for that lesson for all of us. Yeah. So, what about you, Neha?
Yeah, so I just want to continue with the point that Vineet had injuries because I got to know on the race day. I'll definitely go back how it started, the race day. But I got to know about his injury around my 12th mile. And I saw him like walking slowly, not running slowly actually. That time I was like, okay, whether should I stop with you, run with you, what you want me to do? Because definitely I was worried about him. But I think he was mentally prepared. Like this, that was the determination this entire program gave us. Like, okay, you have to achieve, you can achieve. And when you see all that kind of support the entire program is giving you, definitely it will help us to achieve that goal. So that's, I just want to continue with the means how what we got from that this program, entire program. So race day, definitely Sonali was my buddy. So we started our 9 miles, 10 miles together, and after that we just ran as per our pace, and lot of our other friends were crossing by, and they were cheering. We were cheering each other basically. So that was
So, kind of
amazing.
your route was crisscrossing to the point where you could see each other while you were running. Is that how it
Yeah,
was?
it was a
Hmm.
big round loop.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were crossing each other at
Okay.
one point in time. So we were cheering, and also who were completed their 10K, so they were standing and cheering up
Oh,
for us.
wonderful.
So we started our actually race same time. So whoever started 10K finish early, and we were the endurance one. We were just completing our. We were taking our sweet time to complete entire journey, but it was like amazing journey and amazing race day. So
Beautiful. Great. I think very nice to hear your stories. And I think one of the things most people in RHWB have not experienced thanks to COVID is the real race day experience in an event, right? Whether you're in a Dallas or a Houston or a Chicago or whatever. I know slowly some of us have started running that because those things have started coming back. But I don't think you guys probably you would have heard a lot about it, and I think when it really happens for you guys, you might be a bit disappointed because I think in Houston you guys already created an environment which is better than that, with people cheering you on along the way, with the kids cheering you on,
Yeah.
with pom poms and so on and so forth. But it's very nice to hear that you had a community to kind of encourage you guys along the way. That's fascinating. But jokes apart, the real event experience is still awesome. So when you find an opportunity the next time, you should surely try that, right? Uh,
absolutely.
Very nice to hear your stories on the race day. And as you say, the journey is a destination. Once you reach the start line, then what happens that day is just one more day. Like you said, another Saturday, like you said, Sonali, and maybe one more sleepover together for the kids. Probably they enjoyed it together as well. But I highlight the point that during the race, problem solving and dealing with it, pain and the issues that you have, Vineet, that you brought out, I think that's extremely critical. And I think your mental strength story is awesome there. Thanks for sharing that. Just a slightly a different question. I know you guys have spent a lot of, okay, just a quick thing. So, what are your timings, if I may, right, in terms of your half marathon? What was the time? Of course, it was your PR because it was your first half marathon. But so what is your timings, if I may start with Sonali?
I think it was about 3 hours, 15 minutes or so.
Okay, great. Awesome. What about you, Vinny?
3 hours 22 minutes. JV for that.
Okay, great. And Neha?
It was like definitely 3 hours, 11 minutes or so. Yeah, more than
Okay.
three, definitely.
Oh, great. Awesome. Again, in Texas weather, Houston weather, again, I live in Dallas, so I know how warm. Maybe it was a good day that day, but still, I think it's a long time, and the fact that you are able to focus and drive that, it's very commendable. Okay. But just coming back to the other question, I know you guys have had a great season, a lot of support, a lot of learnings, but you have also have spent a lot of time training, right? Which you never thought you had all this time in your life before this, right? So curious, in case you had not signed up for this program, what would you have done with all this time? Let's start with Vineet.
Yeah, I don't know whether I would be able to spend this time. Like I think that I had spent my time all constructively with this RHWB, running and doing this. If I was not doing this, then I would have probably never spent this time so constructively. Probably just would have played some badminton, so to speak. Would have continued that, and then I was actually I started cooking as well. So probably I would have spent little time in cooking during this pandemic. That was giving me some relaxation, and probably watching some Netflix series. That's it. I would have just spent time over there.
Wow. Okay. But no, I'm sure Neha would like the fact that you cook and you cook more,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
I don't think you have a choice not to do that anymore. No, I'm just kidding.
You made
Yeah.
sure that I learned cooking, so that was a good thing. Yeah.
Okay, great. Awesome. Yeah. What about you, Neha? What about the time what else do you think you would have spent time on?
I already have a job of running behind entire family and kids and everyone. But apart from that, my goal when I didn't know about this entire program, my goal was learning swimming.
Okay.
That is still the goal, but definitely running is taking precedence. So that's how I started the second season also. So that was something I could have done.
Okay, swimming. Yeah, maybe you should still try that at some point. But yeah, that's a
Yeah.
nice thing. And of course, you seem to have undue advantage of trained for quite a bit of pre-season running by running behind the family before you started the actual run. Right? But I'm glad you chose to focus on yourself, like you said, for some of your me time, and
Yeah.
then you ultimately chose this. That's awesome. What
Yeah.
about you, Sonali? What do you think you would have done with all this time?
Honestly, I'm not sure, but I mean, I probably would have continued with running, but maybe like 2 miles, like I was doing before I joined RHWB. 2 miles, my that time my criteria was 2 miles or 30 minutes, whatever came first. So from running perspective, that is probably what I would have stuck to. Would have liked, probably would have, again, could be wishful thinking, but probably would have spent some time on running, some maybe some career development stuff, or maybe for my hobby or something like that. So it would have been pretty diversified, right? um, I wouldn't have given a laser focused attention on either of those items. So if I kind of zoom out and look at my 4 months as a whole, I don't think I would have had that satisfaction which I had in October of finishing a half marathon, which really seemed like a dream when I started. So and as along with the challenges that came while training for the season, right? But with that came some opportunities to streamline certain things in our daily routine, giving us some sort of additional discipline of planning things ahead of time. And physically also it helped me a lot in my other physical activities, like I didn't have enough stamina for hiking and all of that. So probably if I had not done this, I would have still struggled in some of those aspects in my life. I wouldn't have had these opportunities to make overall my lifestyle a lot better. So yeah.
No, great answers from each one of you, right? And honest ones as well, right? But I think uh, that's the beauty of this, right? So it gives you a certain set of skills that you are able to explore and apply it in other areas very effectively, right? Like the point you made about problem solving, right? We talked about that and dealing with that. I'm sure now the next time anything happens physically to anybody, we are able to deal with it much better, right? Thanks to the experiences that you had, and also learn some of the limitations we have and not push in certain situations, like you said, Neha, that you learn to run slow and take it easy while everybody else is running around you, but still see the big picture. And Sonal, you talked about the fact that it helped you streamline things. That's a beautiful thing. I think that's what consultants try to do for companies, and try to charge for that, right? But figuring it out how to kind of deal with these situations and then solve things along the way. I think great, great. Thanks for sharing these experiences, because the new set of runners who are starting their journey this season are going to go through all of this and more. And some of the points that you point out here is something that they can really benefit from. And one thing, and again, starting of this podcast, I kind of talked about a lot of things in common for you with these three participants, and let's figure out. There are a lot of things, but one thing which has struck me, and I just want to highlight that, and with a lot of respect, is the fact that all three of them had a long duration for their half marathon runs, right? So each of them have done between 3 and 3.5 hours. So just to give that, right, that takes a lot of effort, sustained focus, and concentration to do this. Guys. Okay, hats off to each one of you, because when we come into these any activity we take, right, some of us are more natural to doing that in terms of that activity and getting the pace and the progress that we make, and some of us don't, right? And in RWB, it's, I know when we run, we'd always think of fast and pace and all of that, right? And we try to always say collectively that it's not about you comparing with anybody else. It's about you competing with yourself and just be the better person with every run, right? While it's very logical and intuitive and all of that, but to practice it is very hard, right? That's point number one, right? And the second thing that we actually execute is when you go and persevere and do something that doesn't come naturally to you, and have this amazing achievement of sustaining that effort and doing this, talks a lot about your endurance and focus and commitment, right? And we talked about the resilience and the fun part of it. I think that the fact that you had a great community to work with, I think that's awesome. Again, enough cannot be said about Saurabh's and Aparna's leadership, and just setting an example for all of us in enabling each one of you. But I really want to commend the effort you have put in terms of number of hours and excelling in something that didn't come maybe as natural to you compared to many others who are fast runners, right? So it's a great lesson for us, and I really want to congratulate you and point to the people who are potentially slow learners to not to be worried about it. It is about conquering your peak and defending your peak. Thank you so much for setting an example for us, right? So now, with all your experience, you guys are senior runners now, and we are 150 plus nervous runners starting this season. What do you have to say to them, right? Let's start with Neha this time.
So as I learned it hard way, like, okay, strength training is the key, and it's like, as you already mentioned, like, it's not competition with others. It's like you are how to compete for yourself against you and achieve the goal. That's what we have to do. And what I realized during this program is like, whatever I'm doing, my son is looking forward to do the same thing. So definitely I'm setting an example in front of him and giving him some perspective to look forward for something. So definitely unknowingly I'm helping him also to achieve something.
No, great one, right? It is about not only about you, but
Yeah.
you also kind of have a responsibility to set an example in some form or shape, right? And that's great. So Neha, what do you want to tell the runners themselves in terms of the program that they are going to go through here?
Yeah, so follow each and every day program. Follow the cross training, strength training. Always uh, ex- don't ignore any small injury that is happening to you. Listen to your body. That's the main thing that you have to do. And always reach out to coach and your friends, and use our amazing group for any question, any small question you have related to run or in injury or any other thing. That will definitely help you to achieve the goal.
Great. Thank you, Neha. And I think one key point that you brought about is the fact that we are fortunate. Not only you guys have a great community within Houston, but this overall RSW community and the WhatsApp group that we have is very useful. So if you have any questions, thoughts, any concerns, please share, and there'll be a lot of people who will be able to help you. Thank
Yeah.
you for that. Yeah, let's go to Sonali.
Yeah, GV, right? Like how Bala always says, there's a method to the madness, right? So everything in this routine has a purpose. Every activity, there's a reason why it is there. So like Neha mentioned, I would definitely urge everyone, all the new runners, to kind of not second guess any part of it. Every single thing has a reason. Like how if you're working on a recipe for a fancy dish, right? Some things are in bulk, some things are just a pinchful, but even that seemingly insignificant amount of some powder is so critical to that final success of that dish that you're about to make. So that's what I would kind of advise everyone, especially strength training. Definitely take it very seriously. Some people may not find it as exciting as going out for a run, but it is so very important. All the coaches and all the senior runners, wonderful people, wonderful human beings. They are super helpful, very warm. They are themselves very passionate about making us successful. They are so invested in our success. So that communication with your assistant coach is very important. Share information about what worked for you, what did not. Have that feedback going. It'll be the walk with the coach videos are very helpful, and it's, I think, important that we watch them promptly, because they are very relevant to what's coming in the next few days, or the next mesocycle or whatever. So it definitely, and obviously the podcast with all the runners for motivation, for some tips and all, very helpful. Where I was just want to go back to one point about assistant coaches, right? If I may just quickly give a small
Sure.
example. This time my coach is Coach Suja, and we kind of always have the comments and questions and all going. And then she suggested that, hey, there is one area of improvement for you, and which is you can improve your cadence. And
Mhm.
she said, why don't you use the metronome app to do that? And I've used that app while I was learning piano, but I never ever thought that I could use that app for improving my cadence. So of all the use cases, I never thought. So all the coaches are very creative as well in making life easy for us. So I really hats off to their commitment, I would say. So definitely respect that. And third thing, as I also learned the hard way about the importance of time management and planning. It's very helpful to plan things ahead of time, depending on how your household functions. It definitely takes away a lot of anxiety and stress for that upcoming week. So, those are some of the things that I would kind of advise to all the new runners.
Oh, beautiful. I think great points that you kind of complimented what Neha said in terms of communication. That's key.
Yeah.
Again, I can't say enough about how invested these assistant coaches are. Great friends, great human beings, and they just do spend a lot of time in making all of us successful. Right?
Definitely.
The second thing, actually, just for the record, Suja helped me with the metronome app for the improving the my cadence as well. Just that my body is in a particular way. It didn't shift the needle too much, but still, I think he's always having a great suggestions, and it is wonderful to see that, right? And the last thing, I think what you talked about is time management. I think that's extremely important, and every family faces it in different ways. But and again, that's a true life skill which we can all get help in any walk of what we do, whether it's work, whether it's dealing time with children. So these are some of the things that the program forces you knowingly or not unknowingly to get better at, right? And I think it's a choice we all make. And thank you for that, pointing out these aspects beyond just the core training and how to manage with that. What about you, Vinny?
Yeah, from my perspective, I think for new runners, the most important thing which I actually got it hard way is this injury which I got in this third mesocycle. So what happened is during this first mesocycle, as I said, that I was able to complete it successfully, and then running 2 miles, 3 miles was never a challenge for me. I always thought, okay, I'm able to run, so why do I really need to focus so much on the strength training? I thought, okay, that is probably okay. That's okay. You can just take it casually and then do it. But then that's when you realize in the third mesocycle, okay, there's something which was taught in the first mesocycle is definitely an important aspect. So I would definitely suggest all these new runners, even though you're able to run properly, run without any issues, without any problems, but make sure that you take your strength training very seriously. That definitely basically builds up your core, and that is very, very important for your third mesocycle. So that's a critical aspect, I would say. Second thing is don't give up. So during the race itself, I had so many challenges, but yeah, make sure that you are determined to complete it. You have signed up for this. You have so much of support, which hardly it's. I don't even think that there is something else like this, that some group or something that can support you so much. It is definitely coming up over here. You have a lot of support. You have a lot of motivation from the team members. So don't even think of giving up. You'll be able to complete whatever you have decided. So these are the two things from my perspective.
No, awesome. And again, I think, as I say, I can go on and on to learn from your experience and kind of extract the points, but we've almost been an hour, and I think since we started talking. Time flies by, and it's just very, very nice to hear your stories. And as I said, now I lost count of how many things you guys have in common. But one thing I can clearly see, each one of you have a lot of passion for running and sharing your experiences, and all of you are very natural speakers as well. So in due course of time, probably you guys will be hosting a few podcasts. Let's see how that pans out, right? But again, one thing I just want to reiterate to all the new runners who are coming in, not sure about how the season is going to pan out. Yes, there will be ups and downs, like these runners pointed out, but it's the choice we all collectively make to problem solve, and make sure things happen, which I'm sure each one of you will. Um, and and this cohort, I said, we'll see what is in common for them. And as I said, I'm repeating again, what is unique about them is the duration for which their long runs were, or the run were, and they were able to do something very effectively and sustain that effort and set up an example for each one of us as to how to get it done. Thank you so much for first doing that, and second, sharing your stories. Sonali, Vineet, and Neha. I can't wait for this podcast to be aired and to see the reactions of everybody and learning from your experiences. Thank you so much for making the time. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, JV.
Thank you, JB. Bye bye.
Hi, everyone. That was a wonderful podcast. I just enjoyed doing this with each of these runners. Hope you guys enjoyed it too. At the beginning of the podcast, one of the things I mentioned was let's figure out what is common between these runners. As you would have listened to the podcast, there's so many things common between them. They are all from Houston. They already knew about this running program even before they started. I kind of knew what to expect. And they obviously knew each other, and they were kind of friends, part of a larger group that's sort of an Aparnar building in Houston, if you may. What struck me the most was the fact that they all took 3 hours or 3 hours to 20 minutes to finish their marathon, which is a long time. So while they discovered the runner in them during the course of the season, pace was not something that came that naturally to them, right? And they still went ahead and embraced the challenge and did this so enthusiastically. So each one of them actually won an endurance award at the end of the season 6 in the SOW. I mean, I forgot mentioning that while they were a part of the conversation, but that's extremely special, and that's something that they should be proud of. And I would really like to kind of brand this cohort and all those who have done this as endurance enthusiasts, because how they embrace the challenge and did this very effectively in the past seasons. So in any racing program or a running program or races, if you may, right? Celebrating pace is a natural thing, right? So we talk about sub twos, and we talked about how hard it is to shave off a minute once you're already in sub two, right? In terms of the incremental effort that's required. But I truly believe it's true on people who take more than 3 hours to run as well. Adding a few more minutes to your run and still be able to do it after you already spent more than 3 hours to run is equally difficult, right? So in RSWB, we do celebrate fast runners, while we celebrate every runner who has been a part of this program and have discovered themselves and completed the journey successfully, the training program itself. Uh, but special celebration is in store for endurance enthusiasts who embrace the challenge, make the time commitment, and do this so enthusiastically. Thank you, Vineet, Neha, and Sonali, for sharing your stories and your journey with us. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Bye.